for you to watch. It spoke to me. It's never done that before. It said, this reading is being recorded. Anyway. Cool. I think that's it. I think we're going to start. Awesome. So the first thing I wanted to talk about before we start this class is this is the book that is going to be cited the most during this class. I don't know if you can see that. Ugh, the background messes with it, but it is called The Runes Workshop, and it is by Leon D. Wild, and it is on the website. For those of you who have access to the website, it is on the website. It is listed in the bibliography section, and it is one of my favorite books about runes. I learned about runes through multiple mentors, which is definitely a way that I suggest, because a lot of these traditions started as oral traditions and as oral teachings, and I feel like there's a lot more energy and a lot more ancestral work that happens when we learn about things orally and from a teacher, which is what all of you are doing right now. But so I just, but books are also amazing tools for people who don't have access to learning from a teacher. So this book is amazing, and it is on the website. So the very first thing I also want to do, because I noticed that there was so much interest in this form of divination work, I wanted to ask people why runes calls to them, and why is runes reading and the history of runes reading and where runes reading comes from, and why does that resonate with you, and why did you want to take this class?
If anyone wants to go, I'll go first. Basically, I'm interested in runes because I'm kind of trying to dabble in multiple different ways of divination, try to see what fits best for me. But runes is definitely like one of the safer routes that I can take, being a Mayo sapien. Not saying that, it's not completely like Norse and those. I want to say that there's a term for them for people. It's
Scandinavian.
There you go. Scandinavian peoples, there are like certain close practices such as the Sami, but this has essentially nothing to do with it.
Awesome. And Brianna responded in the chat, so if you guys want to read what she said, thank you. Yeah.
And kind of along with like Kevin, kind of want to dabble in different types of divination. And also I kind of feel pulled to it with my Germanic roots.
I'm mostly just curious, but like I grew up in a family that was half Scandinavian, and I do have some Scandinavian genetically, I think. Yay, being adopted, that's always fun. But yeah, just it's something that I've, always encountered in books and read about, but I don't know a lot about the actual practices and how this all works and ties together. So it's a good chance to learn more about it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Linda. Wonderful. Nice. So as we know, runes reading, the specific symbols that are on a lot of the runes that we know of are definitely all Scandinavian symbols, and a lot of the history and background of this divination come from Scandinavia. And I feel like a lot of people who have European roots definitely feel like they have a lot of ties to this form of divination work, because a lot of it did originate in Europe, which is beautiful. And I feel like connecting to your ancestors through divination work is really beautiful and really important. A lot of aspects of certain spiritualities, especially ones that are not new because none of these things are new, but they're not ancient. The reading form of divination and runes reading is probably from about 12 to 1300 years ago, which by no means is new, but it is not ancient. It is not something that is 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years old. And so a lot of the spirituality that goes along with it is part of many different ancient spiritualities. So when we talk about runes reading, the symbol itself that is on the physical rune that you see, that is Scandinavian. Most of the reading cloth and the reading board that you are going to use to read the runes is Scandinavian as well. And using this as a form of divination work to be able to give someone guidance or see the future or see the past or read past lives and things like that, that all originates in Scandinavia. But there's also an aspect to it as well that originates in the Middle East, the numerology that follows the runes. For any of you who have taken my tarot class, what is going to be really awesome about this runes class is because the numerals used are Arabic numerals, and the numerology is Arabic. When it comes to this form of divination work, all the numerology you've already used is exactly the same in runes reading. So you already know a lot about the divination work, just knowing the numerology already. And then the practice itself also has roots in tropical astrology as well. So a lot of the runes themselves have roots in tropical astrology, which we know also has roots in Egypt, but is most well known in Greece and in Rome for where it started and originated. So those of you who have taken the astrology classes at this academy also are already going to have a leg up in how to read runes. So the aspects of it that are going to be brand new, that have never been taught before, are going to be the Scandinavian aspects of these, as well as the Scandinavian gods and goddesses that are also a part of runes reading. So I have done a lot of work with a lot of different mentors, and these words still, I am so bad at pronouncing so many of these beautiful Scandinavian words. So bear with me, I truly apologize. It is, yes, so in a lot of you are going to have a runes cloth. Oh yeah, awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna share screens actually, so I can show you what all of this looks like. And this is the very beginning, and what I think should kind of be taught first is the runes cloth. Oops. How do I? Aha, cool. I should have had the website pulled up first. I apologize. So if you go on to the Divination website, then for those of you who are not a part of the academy yet, the Divination website is a tool that you will be given once you enroll in the academy. If you would like to enroll in the academy, just message the page or message me after this class. And if you found this on our page, you can just message the page. So you would click on study guides, and you can scroll down to runes reading. And all of the notes from this class are already posted to the website. And we are going to go to the runes cloth. Okay. And share screens. So this is what your runes cloth will look like when you are, click, please, thank you. Okay, so this is what your runes cloth will look like when you are giving a runes reading. So when we are giving a runes reading, as you can see on the rune cloth, each one has an element that it is tied to, and it also has a direction that it is tied to. So because this elemental work stemmed from Egypt, where we get a lot of our symbolism and the idea of what each element really symbolizes when it comes to a lot of divination work, as well as witchcraft, as well as spirituality that is tied to different forms of divination work. A lot of it stems in Egypt and comes from Egypt. So that is still the case with Scandinavian runes reading. The definition of the element still has roots in Egypt, and therefore it is very similar to what we have already learned in tarot. But for those of you who have not taken tarot, fire is going to be the symbol of action, of inspiration. It is going to be the symbol of actually putting in work and putting in effort, and it is going to be the spark inside of you that gives you energy, that gives you motivation, and it is the element of action and the element of inspiration that comes from all of that action and motivation and the spark that is inside of you, and that is the South. And then we have the West, that is water, and water is your emotion. Water is your, it is all the feelings that you feel inside of you. It is your joy, it is your sadness, it is your happiness, it is your hatred, it is your agony and grief and heartache, but it is also your ability to adapt, your ability to change. It is all of those things. I'm going to, after I show this slide, I'm going to show you a slide that shows off all the elements so that you can read them as well. And then we have the North, that is going to symbolize Earth. And Earth is everything that is physical and everything that is around us. It is our stability. It is our growth. It is everything that exists around us. It is the planet and the universe and everything tangible that exists on this realm and in this dimension. And East is air, and air is our thought. It is our anxiety. It is our knowledge, our wisdom. It is our reasoning skills and our analytics and our knowledge of everything that exists around us. So whereas Earth might be the literal thing that exists, but air is your knowledge about all of those things. And so all of those are laid out on the runes cloth. When you give a reading, just to kind of give you an introduction to how it'll work and why this cloth matters, is that the runes will be shaken in the person's hand or in a bag, or however you, as a reader, however you decide to put energy into those runes from the person. I've seen this done. People will shake the runes inside of an enchanted box, inside of an enchanted cup. I've seen it done inside of a bag and a blessed bag, or even the person's hands. It is all up to you, or a cloth. But they will be shaken, energy will be put into them, and they will be tossed and thrown onto the runes cloth. And depending on where the rune falls, in north, east, south, or west, you will have, that will help you to determine what the symbol on the rune means based on the element and the direction tied to where the rune fell on the rune cloth. And so if you go back and you go down to the next thing in the rune section, you will see the elements. And here all of the elements are described and explained. And I will give everybody kind of a chance to skim and read through those. So while you finish reading through that, I wanted to talk about the different cultures that have used runes throughout the world. We are going to be learning about the Scandinavian version of runes reading, but throughout South Africa, throughout South America, throughout India, Central America, Europe, and Australia, you find remains of what looks like runes that were used for divination reading. They are not going to have the same symbols that we are going to learn about. The symbols that we are going to learn about are from Scandinavia, but they have found artifacts that show that all over the world, runes were being used for divination work, and they were even being used long before the Scandinavians were using them for runes work as well. So we are still trying to find kind of the path on how they made it to Scandinavia and where this form of divination work truly originates. But using the specific symbols that we are talking about originated in different parts of Scandinavia. But it actually is a cultural anthropology study that's going on right now to try and find where the actual roots of this divination are, and which culture shows signs of being the very first culture to use this as a form of divination, which the reason why they really want to figure that out is because then that can kind of give us a lot of information on how spirituality and forms of magic and forms of divination, the path that they took through the continents and through different countries, and what path they took and how they got there, and who started it, and then who was second and third and fourth, and it kind of gives you a path on how spirituality transferred through different countries and through different continents of the world. And so that is, so just everybody had a chance to kind of read through the elements. It's going to be a very important part of runes reading, but you can always access this on the website as well. Okay, so there are lots of different modern neo-pagan groups that use runes as a form of divination work, and there are different laws when it comes to different forms of spirituality. And when I say laws, it's more of just traditions that different forms of culture and religion and spirituality have added their take on how the energy works for runes work. So in Wicca and throughout Wiccan traditions, your runes must be gifted to you or handmade. And if you handmade them, you should use clay, wood, or painted crystal / stones. And those are the materials that you should use. Wicca is a tradition, for those of you who haven't taken our intro to pagan and Wiccan classes, but Wicca is a modern neo-pagan religion and spirituality that focuses on different forms of witchcraft from multiple different traditions and from multiple different cultures, but they only focus on the open practices and open cultures, which truly can be a beautiful thing. It is, if you only focus on the open practices, the practices that were meant to be passed across the world and meant to be passed down to everybody, then really what you're doing is keeping alive some of these beautiful traditions and giving them a place to grow. And so in Wicca, that is the reason for that, is because in Wiccan tradition, it is any divination that is reading someone's energy, the very first thing that it should go through is energy transference, being a gift or being handmade. Because if they are handmade, you are putting literal, actual work into them, which is putting energy into them. And if they are gifted to you, then somebody else is giving you their energy. And so the very first thing it should go through is energy transference. Your cloth must be set up according to the directions if you are using runes for divination work. That is another Wiccan law, Wiccan tradition, Wiccan practice. So make sure that your runes cloth is set up according to the actual directions of wherever you are at, so that the north part of the cloth is in the north, and so on. You must use a runes board when using runes for divination work. In a lot of ancient practices, you never had to use a board for runes reading, and definitely for a lot of very old Scandinavian traditions, you do not have to use a board. There were millions of different things that were used, but a runes board is just a board with the cloth on it, makes it easier to shake the runes and to throw them onto the board. And in a lot of Wiccan traditions, the board is blessed, the board is enchanted, the board is cleansed, and there's a lot of energy that comes out of and comes from the board. And therefore, in Wiccan tradition, you would always use a runes board when reading runes. In Wiccan tradition, you would always cast a circle before giving yourself or anyone else a reading. This just protects the person that you're reading and protects you from any energy, because runes reading is a works in energy transference, and that means that any energy that is inside that person, the runes are meant to soak that up. That is what their job is. That's what they're supposed to do, is to soak in the energy of the other person. And so casting a circle protects you from having that energy interact with your aura or interact with your energy in a way that is unwanted. And so do not use runes that are made out of a stone or a crystal that is meant to deflect energy. You want to use chargeable materials. So like I was just talking about, the rune is meant to soak in energy. That is what is part of the divination reading. So you do not want to use runes that are made out of a crystal that is meant to deflect that energy. You want to use something like quartz or wood or moonstone or opal or amethyst or clay. And metal or limestone. Do not use things like onyx or tiger's eye or howlite or turquoise or selenite, because all of these crystals are meant to deflect energy and to not allow them to come into the stone and to get rid of energy. And so you wouldn't want to use those as runes for the specific purpose of using them for divination work. Throughout Scandinavia, there are millions and millions of ways to use runes that have nothing to do with divination work. Sometimes it is just using the rune as a sigil, and using that sigil as something that you would put on your countertop or your window or in your bedroom to signify the symbolism that is connected to that symbol that is on the rune. And if you're using it for that purpose, then of course, use whatever material you desire that helps to symbolize your intention better. But if you're using it for divination work, then there are specific things that you want to use. Okay. So, does that all make sense? Okay, so the numerology in runes. Let's actually, I think it might be more fun to just go straight to runes symbolism. So, first we are going to learn about a couple runes, and then we're going to kind of go backwards, and I can tell you why they mean the things that they mean. And so also, as part of this class, I hope that you have a pen and paper. If you don't, it's totally fine. But as part of this class, we are going to draw some sigils, because that is a huge aspect and a huge part of runes work, especially introduction. So this is the Fehu rune. And for those of you who know numerology, we are going to go over this. Like I said, I'm going to tell you why it means this, but it is numerology, or the numerology that rules over the Fehu rune is 1. Its element is earth. The Fehu rune symbolizes wealth, and not only does it symbolize wealth, but it also symbolizes earth, and as we already read what earth means, so its symbolism is wealth. The symbolism tied with its element and tied with its numerology significance, that is what gives you the definition of the Fehu rune. So it is, number 1, it is earth, its symbolism is wealth, and the incantation or the Goldra is fe, 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 fu, 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 fehu, 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 fehu. And so for people who use incantations in their craft and in their work, if you were to be working with runes as a form of spiritual work, not necessarily divination work, but as spiritual work, bringing this symbol of Fehu into any of your practices and any of your work, this would help to bring in wealth into your practice and to bring earth and to bring that idea of the number one, which we are going to learn about. And it would help bring that into your practice. So if you are also trying to bring the essence of the Fehu rune into your practice and what it truly symbolizes, you could also bring that incantation into your work as well. So to learn more about the Fehu rune and about the definition of the Fehu rune, we would go to look at the definition of the number one and what the number one really means. And so I will let you read through the number one. And so also, if you'll notice, the number one talks about it being upside down. So you will learn as well, which is also very interesting. It's always very interesting to me how runes and tarot fit so nicely together when they are from two completely different cultures. And it is very interesting to realize how connected all of our spirituality really was and why those things are, and how this idea of numerology came from the Middle East into Europe and how influential it truly was. And we don't think about how influential different pagan spiritualities were. We realize and we recognize how influential a lot of Judeo-Christian religions were when they entered certain continents. But also you have so many pagan spiritualities and pagan ideologies and philosophies that were truly inspirational, and they truly just they were truly influential as well as they spread across the world. So this is the definition of the number one. Yes, this is all available on the website. So if you message the page and you would like to enroll in the academy, then you will gain access to all of these things after the class. It'll all be on the website for you. It'll all be laid out for you, but you have to enroll in the academy to have access to this information after class. We are a free academy though, so don't worry, it doesn't cost money, but you do have to enroll in the academy. And if you message this page, I can explain to you how to do that. So yes, this is the number one. And and then, so now that we know the definition of the number one, and you have read the definition of earth, and you know that this rune specifically, and you know that the Fehu rune specifically represents wealth. So what do you think that the Fehu rune in itself, what do you think the Fehu rune could bring into your practice? And what do you think it means if somebody was to get the Fehu rune in their reading? And right now we're just going to work with pretending all of them are right side up. So don't worry about any of the reverse things right now. Just what would a right side up Fehu interpretation be in somebody's reading, or what would it bring to your practice?
Would it be you reap what you sow, but you haven't reaped yet? You're just doing the sowing part yet?
I like that. I can totally see that.
It's planting the seeds in that earth.
Definitely.
but planting the seeds specifically around wealth in some format. It doesn't necessarily have to be money, but
Yes.
you know, wealth spreads into abundance and you know, stability and in terms of your material situation. So, you know, it could be something relating to career. It could be relating to, you know, the wealth of family, of friends. You know, it depends on what you're looking at for wealth, but it's things within the material world. It could be good harvest that you're setting yourself up for, you know, a good crop of whatever it is you're growing.
Yes. Definitely. I love that. Exactly. Yeah. If you would like to use the chat as well, by the way, to kind of throw out some ideas of what you think, that is perfectly fine as well. So for me, the Fehu rune, I love what Kier said too. That's how I've always perceived wealth. And I think that a lot of people forget that wealth, yes, of course, there is a money aspect to wealth. And when we talk about earth, there is also a money aspect to earth because money exists in our world. And as we know from talking about earth, it is anything that exists in your material realm. And since money does exist in our material realm, wealth and earth can definitely mean prosperity and wealth when it comes to money. But prosperity and wealth can mean so much more than that. And feeling wealthy and in your entire earth, it means so much more. It can mean feeling safe and at home and stable in your family and in your house and in everything that you're doing. It can mean feeling like you are finally accomplishing goals and dreams that have to do with school and that have to do with family and friends and all the things that exist in our world. And so when you think about wealth of your whole world, it is definitely, it encompasses so much more than just wealth that comes from money. And then when we talk about the number one and Fehu being the number one, it is definitely about that brand new change and the new idea, that new inspiration, that new everything. So when you talk about something new that is happening with your prosperity and your wealth, it is something brand new and something that you're starting, a path that you're beginning that is going to bring you closer to true prosperity and wealth that exists in all of your earth. And when you bring the Fehu rune into your practice, it can, let's say that you are trying to meditate and help yourself think about all the things that you could do to bring money or a job or getting into a new college or getting the house that you really wanted or being able to succeed at earthly goals. And you are trying to bring that into your spell work, into your craft, into your practice, into your meditation. This would help to bring that into your meditation and into your practice itself. It would help to bring that intention of prosperity into your work. And when you read this in a reading, it also shows that intention of wealth and prosperity and the new beginning of that. And so then we go down to the Uruz rune. And this is number 2. And it is water. And its symbolism is healing and transformation. And its incantation is Uruz, 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 And remember that bringing those forms of incantation into your practice definitely help to bring the symbolism and intention behind all of these symbols into your practice as well. Even if you feel silly saying them, usually when you bring smile into your practice and laughing into your practice, it's also a good thing. So we can go and look at the meaning of number 2. And you can read through number 2. So remember, right now we are just focusing on what this would mean right side up. And so then we can look at the element water, which here, you know what, we can just look at it again, just so everybody kind of has it in their mind. Okay, so then we go back to the rune itself. And its symbolism is healing and transformation. So if this rune symbolizes the number 2 and water and healing and transformation, then what do you think that this rune would bring into your practice, and what do you think it means when somebody gets it in a reading?
Potentially it's every small action has the decision to carve a canyon, such as a small little creek can end up creating the Grand Canyon. This is saying that basically to go with the flow, but also that you're trying to better yourself. So you need to make the decision what would best serve you to get better or to transform what you need to transform.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely.
And the focus is your emotional state. So, it could be a decision that leads you towards healing and transformation from trauma, leads you into a period of growth and, change, but you have to decide which way is going to be the right way for you, or which of 2 paths you want to take. Like it could equally be not that one is right, one is wrong, but if you're working on healing and transformation, this tells you that there are 2 paths you could take, at least. I mean, there might be more than 2, but you're going to face that point of coming to the choice that you need to decide, especially if it's more focused on transformation. You need to decide who you want to become, where you want to go.
Yes, definitely. And Ambriana answered in the chat if you guys want to read it. I love what you said, Ambriana. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So yeah, just like everybody said, so this rune, when it comes to your practice, is bringing in that intention to make the right decisions when it comes to your emotional healing and transformation. So you are bringing into your practice the ideology and the intention and the manifestation needed to be able to make the correct decisions when it comes to your own emotional healing and transformation. So if you are going through a really hard time and you are going through a moment of transformation where things in your life are going through a very big change and you need a lot of healing and you really need to make the correct decisions that'll help bring yourself to that healing and to a healthy transformation, then you are going to want to bring the Uruz rune into your life and bring it into your practice, bring it into your craft, bring it into your meditation, bring it into the things that you do, because that is going to help bring that intention into your life and help manifest all of those things and help you to make the correct decisions when it comes to your own emotional healing and transformation. So that is the Uruz rune. So now, well, first, so before we start our activity, I wanted to discuss what we know, which this one is always very interesting, but what we know about the gods and goddesses that represent the runes, because in a lot of Scandinavian spirituality, the gods and goddesses that represent rune work is very, very important. They are all very, very important to the practice. And it's not necessarily the belief in them being real, but understanding what they represent and bringing that representation and that philosophy into your life and believing in certain philosophies, not necessarily a belief in God, but a belief in the philosophy behind what the God represents. And so the very first god that we are talking about today is Odin. And what does everybody know, at least, if anything, which is totally fine if you know nothing about Odin, totally cool. But what do people know about the god Odin? And feel free to use the chat, as I said, as well. So, this is Odin. And Odin is the lord of runes, poetry, war, magic, ecstasy, awareness, the mind, the heroic dead, the all-father, sovereign god of the north, the most mysterious and changeable of the gods. He has one eye, as the other was sacrificed for wisdom in Mimir's war, or in Mimir's well. The day Wednesday is named after him from Woden's Day. And yes, yep, definitely, yes. Exactly, Ambriana. I love that description. But yeah, so the Lord of Runes, when it comes to using these for divination work, because Odin is the Lord of Runes, and his energy and So I want to talk about gods and goddesses really quick, actually. And there's something I want everybody to read before we go into why gods and goddesses matter when it comes to our divination work. So go here and we go to gods and goddesses. I think it's got its own section. Pretty sure yep, okay. So this section about pagan deities, okay, it's a little long. That's okay. We're going to read it anyway. So it's called Understanding Pagan Deities. I wrote this too through my understanding of how to bring pagan deities into your practice and into your life, even if you are more of an atheistic, agnostic person who's not really, doesn't really believe in gods or goddesses in that way. And so this is my understanding of why they are still so important. I made a typo. I have to fix that. So, in essence, the idea that the personification and imagery behind a lot of gods and goddesses throughout time, including the Judeo-Christian God, that image and that imagery and those ideas and all of that have been in people's minds for so long. So many people have written songs and music and poetry and books and prayed for so long and made these images part of culture and made these images part of day-to-day life and part of thought. And if you are somebody who believes that the energy of the world is all connected, then we are still connected to the energy that put so much emphasis and energy and love into these ideologies and into these personifications and images. So therefore, we, in a sense, made the gods and goddesses as powerful as they are, because by putting all of your energy and art and work and thought into them and making them part of culture, making them symbolize such huge philosophical concepts, we as a species ended up putting so much energy into them that their imagery, their personification can now be used as a tool and as a manifestation of very complex philosophical concepts. And they can be used as a personification instead of having to explain the entire philosophical concept, and as a way to help our own brains to understand large concepts and to become wiser and to become more knowledgeable, because we have these personifications that symbolize these very complex philosophical topics. Yeah. So, back to the gods and goddesses of runes. And so that is kind of an essence of why they matter so much in our runes work, is we are bringing the energy of 5 jillion ancestors and 5 jillion people who all believed wholeheartedly in the essence of Odin and what he does. You are bringing every single thought and all of that energy and all of that artwork and those stories and those books and the celebrations and festivals. You are bringing all of that energy into your work. By bringing Odin into your work, you are bringing the essence of all of those things from the past and from the present into your work. Okay, so then we have Tyr, the god of the sky, war, counsel, justice, and self-sacrifice. He sacrificed his hand in the binding of the Fenris wolf, so that the cosmic order could be protected. Ow! Stop it! I love you, but stop. Ow. Okay, Tuesday is named after him. My cat is biting my toes and it hurts. So, Tuesday is named after him. What do we all know? Do we all know of him? Has anybody heard or studied him before? Tyr. Thank you very much, Ambriana. Go on. Stop. Okay. And next we have Thor. I love Thor. So I really actually enjoy bringing Thor into my practice. Thor is a god that I bring quite frequently into my practice. It might be, honestly, it might be because as I was a kid, Thor is also part of mainstream media, and I'm not saying that I was not conditioned to love Thor, because I do love Marvel. So media might have brainwashed me, but also I love the symbology of Thor. I love what Thor symbolizes and what Thor represents in life and all of the mythology surrounding Thor as well. Yes, well, tell me what you know about Thor, everybody. What do we know about Thor? And also, don't be shy either about all of your knowledge being from more of mainstream media. When it comes to Scandinavian gods, we don't do a horrible job of like talking about their actual mythology. Like, yes, it's very Hollywood. Yes, it's very made, you know, a lot of it is embellished and kind of there's a lot of fiction in there as well. But there's a lot of real mythology in mainstream media as well when it comes to Thor and Loki and Zeus and such things. Stop. Go on. Okay, I have to kick my cat out of my room for a sec, but what do you know about Thor? Marceline, come here. I love you, but I should just know.
Well, for one, Thor cross-dressed in order to get his hammer back from the giants.
Yes.
And Thor was the son of Odin.
Yep.
One of.
Yes. So the mythology surrounding Thor's hammer, if you have ever read this mythology, it's actually beautiful. And Thor being the god who can lift the hammer and it having, well, what do you guys know about Thor's hammer and what it symbolizes? Yes, exactly. I was totally, yes. Aw, I didn't know he loved goats. Thank you. That's awesome. So yes, as we go into talking about Thor's hammer, when you learn about the mythology of Thor's hammer and his ability to lift it up, it also has so much to do with the fact that he is the guardian of the dead. And I've gone through a lot of grief in life, and I feel like a lot of my rituals tend to surround me wanting to remember people and to give a lot of honor to the dead and to celebrate them and to do a lot of astral projection work that involves just meditating and thinking about them. And he is a wonderful god to bring into your practice when you are working with grief and when you are working with trying to celebrate and honor and be with people who have died or animals who have died. Oh, yeah, that's true. It is the animal that pulls his weight, and he does love to eat. Does. Feasts for Thor. I tend to, during a lot of rituals, you know, you give, when you do large feasts at the end of rituals, a lot of times you'll see statues of Thor all over the table just so that he can join in and eat too. Oh, that's good to know too. I did not know that red was his color. Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, Thor is pretty cool. And the mythology behind his hammer is amazing. The mythology around the work that he does with the dead and all of that is truly amazing. And also, he is one of the first gods when you do kind of introduction witchcraft, when it comes to doing witchcraft that is based in Scandinavia or even based just in a lot of European practices, because Thor is kind of the protector of mythology and the protector of a lot of the northern mythology. He is somebody that you can work with a lot as a beginner when you're doing beginner witchcraft, and somebody that you can work with when you don't really know a whole ton of, like, about the mythology behind the work that you're doing. Calling in Thor can, not only is he just going to be fine with that, he's a very chill god. And like I said, I don't truly believe in any god, but I do believe in the strong energy of the ideologies that people have put behind gods. So but yeah, he's going to be totally fine with the fact that you don't know a lot, and he can bring you a lot of wisdom. So if you are brand new, bringing Thor into your practice can bring you a lot of wisdom. And then we have Loki. So Loki is also awesome.
And unfortunately smeared campaigned.
Yes. So destruction. But as we know, especially in a lot of pagan practices, destruction is just rebirth. And destruction is necessary for rebirth. So a lot of times, it is necessary for a small, tiny portion of the forest to light on fire so that new acorns and new life and new soil and new things can be born. It is necessary for deterioration and rot and all those things so that new life can grow. A lot of times I feel like people feel that way about, are you talking about Thor or about Loki as God's assistant? Yeah. So I feel like a lot of times people think that because he is shadow work, they think of him a lot more like, I think it's because of this. Judeo-Christianity tainted shit. And because we always think of the shadow side of God being, the devil or being darkness, that we always think of Loki because Loki is darkness and destruction, but in a pagan way, not in a Judeo-Christian way because it's rebirth. They tend to think of it as just the shadow side. And so it's just the assistant, or it's just the other side of the god. And I don't know, but I've heard that a lot too. But Loki is definitely not. He is not any lesser, that's for sure. Loki is extremely powerful. The ideology behind Loki is extremely powerful. And destruction in itself is the only reason life exists. So Loki is definitely, just as important as anything else. We always have to remember that destruction and sadness and things like that are just as important as happiness and abundance.
He's also just change.
Yeah.
He's chaos. He's accepting that chaos is something that exists. Yeah, because he is the most changeable. He can change his gender. He can change his form. It makes him a trickster, but it also makes him fluid. Whereas the others are so static and staid, he is that element of change because change is necessary. And a lot of mythologies focus on, for fairy tales, it's always the one who's cunning that gets the reward at the end. That's what Loki's trying to embody, is the fact that you don't always have to be the strongest. Sometimes you just have to be the smartest.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yep.
Sometimes being strong doesn't fix the problem. So the story of getting his hammer back, Loki's the one who solves the problem. They tried to tell Freya, hey, why don't you help us? And she didn't like the thought of having a fake wedding. Well, they proposed it wasn't a fake wedding. They proposed it was a real wedding. So Loki's the one who comes up with the idea of Thor, dress up as Freya. We'll get your hammer back.
Mm-hmm.
And Loki's the one who has to enact the entire plan. And cover it up because Thor's too busy scowling about losing his precious hammer. So he's not trying to sabotage it. He's actually trying to help. It's just the way he helps is through his cunning, through his ability to manipulate. And manipulation is not always bad either. I mean,
Babies do it.
yeah. And the gods need a sense of humor. That's what tricksters do. Tricksters keep the gods from becoming so staid and settled that they can't change, that they forget that humans do change. Humans need difference and change and, need to be shaken up a little bit. And so do the gods. If they're never shaken up and they know everything and everything just continues on as it is, then how can people change? How can the world change?
Definitely.
And in equal balance, they did state that like all the previous stories of Loki of like with turning into a mare to lure away the horse so that way Odin wouldn't lose out on that bet, or trying to get Thor's hammer back, that it was all trickery and cunning. But like towards the stories of Balder and then eventually getting changed to the Rock, that actually has more Judeo-Christian parallels. So they think that it was actually the spread of Christianity that started influencing the religion and basically painted Loki as, yeah.
Oh, that's a very good question. I think it's more of the alter ego and not his twin, but I have definitely read a lot of mythology that it is the twin. But I definitely think that it can also be, I enjoy the mythology better of it being his alter ego. But yeah, thank you. Exactly. Good. But yeah, I totally agree with everything you said about Loki. And yeah, I think that we forget about how intelligent Loki is, because I think that's also something to say about Scandinavian gods in themselves and Norse gods, in themselves, is just that wisdom takes place in so many of the gods. So you forget how brilliant Loki is, because Odin is wisdom, right? So Odin gets all the credit for being intelligent and being smart and being, the god of wisdom. And we forget how truly cunning and intelligent and wise that Loki is, because you need all of that wisdom to truly be able to manipulate and cause chaos and to be a trickster and to come up with ideas. And also that none of those things equal bad, that destruction is necessary, manipulation is necessary, that trickster and chaos and all of that is a very, very necessary aspect of the universe itself. Yes. So then we have Freya. So what do we know about Freya?
Do not piss her off.
Yes.
Like, we tend to have this concept, especially in the West, of goddesses being, especially like love and fertility goddesses, being pretty and gentle and
Demure.
being Venus, being Aphrodite, who wouldn't want to chip a nail.
Yep.
And that the only thing they have is being pretty and sexy.
Yep.
But
she's also the
Freya's
goddess of war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freya is terrifying, and most of the other gods are rightly terrified of her and her cats, because they will beat the crap out of anybody who crosses her.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which is why Thor and Loki had a run when they decided to have the stupid idea of telling her, hey, do you want to marry a giant?
Yeah. So, I mean, she is definitely beautiful and goddess of love and fertility and eroticism, but that does not mean she's not also the other side of that.
Yep, and she's also the goddess of war.
Because those are all the things that drive you to war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And not only that, she's also, the goddess of weaponry, She is the goddess of understanding tactics. She is so much more. As you'll see at the bottom of this is direct. It's just a direct quote from the book. If I was to write my own thing on Freya, it would look different. But this is for reading the book purposes. I do want to go in and write my own thing about every single goddess, just like I did about the understanding of gods and goddesses, because there's a lot more to them than a lot of the books say. But also, she is not only that, but also she symbolizes power over nature and the cycles of nature. So a lot of times when celebrating different Sabbats that talk about the wheel of the year, we will celebrate Freya, in that she is the goddess of the cycle of life and of the wheel of the year and of nature and how it changes. So she is just the goddess of everything. She is amazing.
For anyone who's into Hellenistic practices, this is what happens when you mix Athena, Artemis, and Aphrodite.
Right, when you mix everybody.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's also the goddess of very specific types of magic, and bringing her into runes divination is also a beautiful way to bring so much of that very ancestral Norse energy into your practice when it comes to magic and bringing in magic into your practice.
Mhm.
Yes, and she's also the goddess of growth as well, which comes with a lot of her nature and cycles and all of that. And then, yes, we have Freyr, the most, which this book says, but the most important Vanit god, which but a symbol of peace, prosperity, and pleasure. And also fertility as well. So we have, the masculine and feminine energies that represent fertility, the Lord of the Harvest, worldliness. He is identified with the bear, and his weapon is a hart's horn. And once again, I also think it's beautiful too, because when you look at Freyr, that, yes, which we are going to. Thank you, Andrea. We are definitely going to do that as well. That is listed at the top of this page, which I kind of skipped over just so we could go over the gods and goddesses, but we will go back. But anyway, so with Freyr and Freya, you notice a lot more of tactical and weapon and war skills when it comes to Freya, which I also think is beautiful. Freyr, once again, does come in blessings for war as well, and in being, these are kind of the god and goddess of war and of peace, but also Freyr represents much more peace and Freya represents much more war. And I also think that that's very cool, and that it's very interesting to see all of that beautiful feminine energy being brought into tactics and weaponry and war, and a lot of that beautiful masculine energy being brought into peace. And I think that that is a beautiful dichotomy as well that they have between Freyr and Freya. Oh no. Don't be sorry at all. I love all your random thoughts. But yes, so we have the families of the gods. And so we have, let's go up. Here we go. Asir and Veneer. Like I said, I have always been bad at pronouncing those. But yes, the Asir family contains mainly gods of consciousness, war, and government. The highest and holy gods of consciousness, of shaping the universe, of the ultimate potential. The ruling god of northern tradition is Odin, as we talked about. And then we have, oh, thank you very much. I did learn from mentors, so of course I learned via speech, so I should be very good at pronouncing them, and for some reason, I just need to focus more. But thank you. So, and then we have Veneer, are mainly concerned with fertility and natural worldly processes and cycles. The rulers of Vanir are Freya and Freyr, the lady and the lord. And then we have other beings. But we are actually going to go into our activity so that we have enough time. So if you have a pen and paper, I'm going to go back to we are going to draw our own sigils. I wonder if there's a way that I could show off both. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Can show off both. Okay. So we're going to draw our own sigils. And for now, the only things that we have to focus on are either earth, or either basically Fehu or Uruz. But your sigil, and it can be anything. If you are able to kind of take the time to go into your own head and meditate for a couple minutes and try to imagine different sigils. But sigil creation is a very important part of runes reading and of being a master of divination work when it comes to runes reading. So using the Fehu rune or the Uruz rune, create your own, basically just design. A sigil can be whatever small design that you want to create, but using one of these symbols. So making Fehu the essence of your symbol because you're trying to bring the essence of Fehu into your life, or using Uruz and making Uruz the main essence of your design and bringing that into your life, but redesigning the symbol so that it's more you. And then describing why you added, let's say you added a spiral onto the Uruz rune. Why you added a spiral? What does the spiral mean to you? Why did you add that into your sigil work? So being very intentional about each line and each dot and each thing that you add to your sigil and why you added it. And then we're going to talk about it afterwards. Feel free to turn off your camera, feel free to mute yourself, and just kind of take a minute to create your own sigil. Does anybody have any questions? Well, good. Cool. Awesome. See you in a minute. Okay, so let me know if you still need, does anybody need more time? Perfectly cool if you do.
Good. Yep.
Cool. Okay, so, oh, camera. So now I'm gonna have everybody share the sigil that they made. If you just want to put it up to the camera and show it off, if you don't want to turn your camera on, that's fine too. You can just describe it. But I want you to describe and show off why you made the sigil the way it was, which rune you based it off of, and why. And like why you want to bring that energy into your life.
Hey, numerologically wise, you went first.
Making fun of the fact that I'm old.
No, you picked the first rune, so you get to do that then.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, that's beautiful. I love the roots and the wow. That is such a cool sigil.
Yeah. So I took Fehu, but it needs roots to ground it. And the leaf for the symbol of what the goal is. The goal is to actually bear fruit, to grow. The dots leading up to the sky, the connection to above, beyond, that the earth without the sky can't grow. And the spiral is for balance, because otherwise it's very heavy on one side, not so much on the other.
I love that. It's so beautiful. Oh, I love your sigil. You should put that somewhere. It's gorgeous.
Thanks. Stuff it to a wall. Yeah. Start
That
painting.
really is gorgeous.
I don't mind waiting.
I'll show mine. I didn't go like as in depth or as intense as you. Just something basic. Oh wait, wrong one. Yeah, that's a nicer one. I do too because it's nicer. And
Oh,
it's
I like
literally
it.
just like,
That's really
Good.
pretty.
I like just simple basic things, like minimalist style. But no, this one basically is just helping me in my transformation of like moving forward and kind of like giving me strength for everything that I'm going to have to go through.
Embryona wanted to see it again because she missed it.
Super minimalist.
I love it. It's pretty. Thank you. And that was such a great description. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. And then Linda said that they used Uruz and added a sun in the center for healing and a river at the bottom, as I require healing and transformation myself. Aw, thank you, Linda. That's wonderful. I love that.
Guess it's my turn now.
Yeah.
I feel bad that you're literally like the only one who did Fehu. Because I did Uruz as well.
That's cool. Awesome.
The this part, the hook on this side, is representing wounds and needing to heal from them. Because blood is also fluid. And this side is transformations and whatever healing you do echoing out into the world, because it's the ripples on water. And this is on the outside while the hook's on the inside.
That is so cool.
So it shows what's being affected. In is you, out's them.
That's awesome.
Wow, I love that. This is so neat. And Embryona is working on sending a picture of hers. Sean, did you have one to show? Did you want to show your sigil? Okay, that's perfectly cool. All right, so we can wait for Brianna to be able to send us a picture. And let's see, which one? Oh, right, okay. So I think, yes, awesome. Oh, awesome, okay. So, let me see. Oh, pretty. So hers is like an Uruz symbol, but with like a spiral and like a loop and a swirl at the bottom with a spiral that goes up and around into the middle. It's beautiful. And it came up sideways, so I'm trying to read it sideways. Never ending cycle and choices all flows together. Every choice reflects and affects the other, positive and full of love and light. Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful symbol to bring into your work. So if you guys want to, too, you can use these symbols that you created today in a lot of your practice. I think that they're all beautiful. And this is also an introduction in how to use all the things that you've been learning to create sigils and to bring them into your practice and to bring them into your meditation work and stuff like that. Because as you learn more about like numerology that we learned about today and that we've been learning about in tarot, you can take the numbers. Arabic numerals have been used in sigils for a very, very long time. It's a beautiful way to bring numerology into your work, as well as using runes, as well as using different tarot cards, and all kinds of things that you can use to create sigils to bring into your work. Yeah, I love it. It's really beautiful, Brianna. Thank you. So all of you made such pretty sigils. So we are going to talk a little bit about the history of runes and also the energy that comes with it. So it is believed in runes work that when you start doing runes work, you draw in a you draw in so much of a culture. So you are drawing a lot of Norse culture. You are drawing in German and Swedish and Danish and Icelandic and Norwegian cultures into your practice and into your work, which is a lot of ancestry work or a lot of ancestry magic that you are bringing into your divination work. And as it says here, the rune is more than a letter. The very word rune, from the Old Norse, Old English, Old High German, and Gothic, mean mystery, or an archaeopulse secret. If you dare to make the runes your own, you can expect to have your life taken in strange and interesting directions as you seek the mysteries to become a truer person, and become a truer person. So, it is said that when you do work with Odin, when you do work with these energies, that it's not just bringing divination into your life, you are also bringing a lot of ancient magic into your life. And so being aware of the tool that you're using, being aware of how old these symbols are, how much they mean to certain cultures, and really bringing that magic and that energy into your life and realizing that it is going to affect who you are. It is going to affect your world in general, that you can't just bring these forms of ritual and magic and practice into your life and expect not to be changed and affected and transformed by their energy. The rune is a complex unit. Its form, its sounds, its number all bear symbolic meaning. And then, of course, this book, as you go on, will explain the meanings. As you can tell, and as you will see at the bottom, it is cited. We are, since this is an intro class, we are just focusing on this book, but there are about 14 or 15 different runes books that are a part of the bibliography on the website. As we go into more of the complex advanced work with runes, we will start using a lot of different books, as well as just oral communication and oral translation that comes from not only me, but from other readers who are masters of their craft that I will bring in as guest speakers and guest teachers, so you can get readings from different runes readers as well as from me. But anyway, everything that's on the website right now is intro, so it is all based on the book that I showed you. So we are going to talk about we're going to talk a little bit about how this book works, because pretty much you are going to be reading most of the book. I kind of organized it into different chapters and categories for you. I cited everything for you, so you should be able to use the book as a tool. If you would like to go out and purchase the book, it's like $8. So feel free to go out and purchase the book, but I did make it pretty much completely free and accessible to you on the website. So basically runes are considered an alphabet, but like I said, they mean a lot more than just a letter. But if you kind of look at all language as a whole, all language is much more than just a letter. All language has a lot of history, a lot of a lot of past and history that changes the energy and the essence of the words and creates more of a meaning than just a letter or just a word or just sounds that you make with your mouth. So the workbook below delves into the world of the Elder Futhark, the oldest runic system or alphabet, which is the type of runes reading that we are going to learn. We will start by looking at this system, as the later runic systems are dependent on the elder for their lore, names, and shapes. Runes were organized in a row called the Futhark, taken from the first 6 rune staves. This stav is the name for the physical shape of the rune. In runes, these staves are written. Is one rune. The naming of the rune system is similar to the way the word alphabet is derived, from the names for the first 2 letters, alpha and beta. The runes were ordered in 3 families called 8s. The rune staves are angular because they are designed to be converted into wood. And it is easier to carve angular staves with a knife. Angular shapes stand out better when carved in wood, especially when carved against the grain. So this is the complete Elder Futhark sequence. As you know, today you learned the first 2. But these are all of them in order. And so you can already kind of look at them and you can already know their meaning, because on the website. So if you were to study the website, you could come up with the meaning almost for every single rune based on their numerology. You can see a lot just and solely and only from their numerology, and that information is accessible to you. So you are going to have every single one. You can go and you know the number. So you know that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. And the numerology that I gave you only goes up to 10, but we are going to talk about that in our more advanced classes. And after every single class, more and more and more information will be available on the website so that you can study all of it and keep up. And but I didn't want to overwhelm you with too much information all on the website all at once. And then they have a really cool picture that I wanted to add on the website here from the book. The Kylver stone in Gotland, Sweden, 350 to 475 CE, has one of the earliest depictions of the complete Futhark sequence. It also has a cryptid coded sign and a magical utterance. The complete inscription is, you can go ahead and try, but plus cryptic sign and palindrome. So I thought that was super cool. That was something I didn't know, that we had found such an old ancient artifact that had these symbols on them. Like I said before, we have not been able to track how long we've been using these exact symbols, so the Futhark symbols, for divination. So when I said before that this form of divination is not ancient because it's only about 1,200 years old, I was talking about using it as a form of divination. These symbols, as you can see, are extremely old and have been around for a very, very long time. We just have only been able to find evidence of them being used for divination work for about 1,200 years. So cool. Sorry, I was reading the chat. Okay. So this page gives you kind of an introduction to the history of these, how long ago the very first sighting of these symbols being used was found, and the type of energy that is going to come into your life when you decide that you want to embark on the journey of becoming a runes reader, or of really and truly diving into the history and knowledge behind these symbols and runes and bringing them into your life and into your practice. So to be able to study, basically, because we are coming to the end of class now, but to be able to study what we've learned so far so that we can definitely jump ahead and get a lot farther in the next class, is looking at the rune symbolism, memorizing the two that we already went over today, which is Fehu and Uruz, and the what? No, like I said, it's totally cool. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, that's totally fine. I'm horrible at pronouncing these. So please feel free to correct. Is it Uruz? Is that what you said? Okay, I was just wondering. So then you can go into the laws of runes work. When it comes to Wiccan practice, we are going to learn the different laws that follow the different ways that you can use divination work. We just started with Wicca, but we are going to go on to different ancient Norse traditions and what the laws are within different ancient Norse traditions. But today we started with Wicca and the more modern neo-pagan versions of the laws behind runes work for divinations and for divination practice. And then you can go to the element, read about the element connected to the rune so you can have a better understanding of what the rune means, what it symbolizes, the element behind it, tie that into the numerology. Down here, the numerology behind the rune, what the numerology symbolizes behind the rune. So if you put the element and the numerology together, you can get a very good idea of what the rune is and what it represents and what it symbolizes. And then the rune symbolism as well, which we will be adding more and more symbols to that list as these classes go on. And then as well, becoming familiar with the gods and goddesses of runes. And those are just the very strong and most common gods and goddesses. We are also going to go through more gods and goddesses and how they are loosely tied to runes work and why, and how they influence Norse mythology. And so that is what you can study to be prepared for next time, as well as the runes cloth that we went over earlier in class today, what the elements mean, and really remembering that every single point on the runes cloth is represented by a different element in a different direction, and knowing what those directions symbolize based on what element they symbolize. Also, would be really great for studying. So that is the end of our class today. Did anybody have any questions? I can kind of leave the last 5 minutes for questions, comments, stuff that you really super want to learn next time, so I can make sure to cover it.
In regards to the cloth, like what's the usual size of it?
So the usual size of the cloth and the board are going to be, so how big? I've seen them about 1.5 feet both ways. It's usually perfectly
Okay.
square. So it would be like 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a bunch of old fabric and I'm like, ooh, I can embroider my own.
That would be so perfect too, and putting your energy into it by hand making it. Oh, that would just be so perfect.
Because like I've already handmade my own runes and I make everything myself. So I'm like, oh, I should do my own cloth.
That would be perfect. Great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah. This class is going to be available to everyone. It is recorded and it will be on the website for anybody, and anybody who is not a member of the Divination Academy. We are an awesome pagan academy where we learn about different pagan spiritualities from all over the world, not necessarily to take or to do, but to just learn and to gain more knowledge about the pagan communities across the world. And it is free. We use the bartering system, and so please feel free to join us. Message this page, the page that you found the event on, if you are interested in joining the Divination Academy. And this will be on the website recorded, so everybody can find this information. And I can't wait to see you next week.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye. Thank you. Have a great night.
You
I'm
too.
so happy you could make it too, Ambriana. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.